we're going to be using Survey 123, and I love the way that it's very easy to manage your surveys. You get a page of all of the surveys that you've created. As you can see here, I've got a page here where you can see, okay, I've got a survey on the solar eclipse here in North America. I've got a survey on pedestrian friendliness, which is what we're going to do here today. Cloud observations, pedestrian counts, vegetation mapping. They're all in these little tiles. And I can go into any one of them and edit them. Edit meaning add questions, take questions away, share them if I haven't shared them yet, or unshare them if I've if I want to close down the survey, etc. And then you've got these reporting tools, as you probably would expect with anything related to, S3 GIS. We provide you with, word clouds and chord diagrams and change over time and who's responded to your survey, and of course a map that you can look at the patterns, relationships, and trends that you can of course do analysis on, spatial analysis in ArcGIS Online with the 45-ish tools, or with ArcGIS Pro with the 1100 plus tools, as well as graphs of various kinds. So I get these questions frequently, so I thought I'd sort of anticipate some of the questions that might come up here in our session today by saying, yes, you can download the Survey 123 data and bring it into R or Stata or some other stats package. You can also use Survey 123 with higher precision GPS. People really wanting to know the position of this plant versus that plant that's maybe, 10 centimeters away. You can connect these with higher precision units and devices and capabilities. You can also citizen science enable your surveys, meaning that you can crowdsource them. You can share them with everyone, and those people don't need to be GIS people or knowledgeable. They don't even need to have the app. They just need to go to your URL and they can bring up your survey and say, oh, well, that is a purple loosestrife or whatever you're collecting on. Yeah, so that's really powerful. Also, you can use the app, or you can decide not to use it. The app, I admit, looks a bit nicer than just the web browser, and the app also allows for offline collection, which is important if you're out in the middle of, the rainforest somewhere or on the prairie. So yes, all of those things. And also you can add the data to your web map in a browser. So let's say you've come back from the field and, oh no, I forgot to collect, points number 100 through 110. You can go back, as I show you in this screenshot here, where that is sitting in ArcGIS Online. You pull up that data, you put it in a map, and then it's editable, because you've made the survey editable. So that layer is editable, and you as the author can go in and hit the edit button and then add some points after you're back in the office. So that's good. You don't have to go and take that canoe down the river again and collect that water quality. You can actually do it back in the office. As long as you've got the data that you've collected in the field, you can add it back in the office, and you've got some sort of latitude, longitude, or some other georeferencing point. Okay, so that's really exciting to me, and hopefully to you too. How do you citizen science enable these things, Joseph? Well, you keep talking about this, but really it's nothing more than there's a little share button inside the zone where you're creating your survey, and you say share with everyone. Okay. And then the lower right here, who can submit data to the survey? If I click everyone, anybody can pull it up. Now, they're not going to be able to stumble across it in a Google search, so you have to tell people that the survey is there. You have to say, here is the survey, and you have to write about it somewhere in a blog or, post it somewhere on the web, right? You have to tell people that it's there, because they're not going to be able to do a general Google search and find your survey. So you do need to tell people, but if you check that, everyone, they'll be able to open it. Just like you can open my walkability survey. Or you can share it with just groups, like I was mentioning earlier, just your own research group. And you get a link there. And also at the very bottom, this is a nice touch also. You can ask the user of your survey, hey, do you want to open it in the web browser, or do you want to open in the app? You can give them a choice, or you can specify, okay, they're going to only see the web browser, because maybe I'm crowdsourcing it and they probably don't have the app. They probably don't know what GIS is. I just want them to collect data into it. So lots of capabilities here. There's two main ways to make one of these Survey 123s. we're going to use the left method today, which is the web designer dragging and dropping questions into a form. But you can also, as I indicated a bit ago, use Survey123 Connect, which is the thing that goes into Excel and lets you additional power. You know, like with all of these tools nowadays, folks, in GIS, you have to pick the most appropriate tool for the job, right? Just because you can, for example, do X doesn't mean you need to, right? Pick the most appropriate tool for the job. You know, that's an empowering statement, really. It's also a little bit, I admit, unsettling for some people because, you know, way back when I started with GIS, which was back in the late Cretaceous period, you know, there was pretty much one, with some variations, but one way to learn and do GIS. And now there are so many ways you can engage in pieces of geospatial analysis. There's not just one way. So that's good. We've got lots of choices, but it's also, where do I start? And that's why I like to start with things like this. Just briefly, since we're not going to spend time going into the connect method, but you basically go into the connect method if you want more power. It bounces you into Excel. And like I said, it gives you the schema, and I'll show you that in a moment. Then you publish it to ArcGIS Online, you test it out, you create the map, and then you decide who to share it with and how to do that. And then you can collect data into it. This is what the Excel spreadsheets look like. You get different tabs with all of these things populated. And so in my case, this was a simple, hey, collect data in the field. Is it living? Is it non-living? If it's living, give me a choice of, and is it tree, shrub, or other living? If it's non-living, give me a choice of, as you can see in the lower panel, chair, bench, trash can, or other non-living. I mean, really, really simple stuff here, but it shows you the branching capabilities. So it uses these elements in the spreadsheet to decide if and how and when to do the branching and decide, okay, based on this, I'm not going to show this next section of the survey because it's totally a non-living thing. I'm not going to give the choices of tree, shrub, and then what kind of tree is it, what species is it, how healthy is it, etc. So lots of capabilities here. Now I'm going to show you a survey that I've created on campus vegetation mapping. I spend a lot of time, as I mentioned earlier, in research and universities. And so make that a little larger. Okay, so here's my campus vegetation mapping survey. I'm going to guide you through how to create one of these. But okay, let's say it's evergreen. And let's say it's deciduous. Okay, I got a choice there. What condition is it? Oh, I'm going to say it's fair. Height in meters, and I always like to tell people, you know, if there's some confusion on your units, be sure to specify, right? Because we don't want to mix, you know, apples and oranges, or in this case, feet and meters. So I'm going to say it's 3 meters high. And also I'm telling the user, I'm giving them a little bit of hint, as you can see here. Round it to the, in my case, the nearest integer. I don't want any floating point variables here because that's the way I want my survey to appear. And I'm going to say, well, this is an ash, okay? And then what's my location? I'm going to say it's Broomfield, Colorado, USA. Okay, so Broomfield, Colorado, the location of one of our ESRI offices. I can get pretty tight in here. If I was out in the field and doing this, right, it would give me a little find my location. And if I had my location-based services on my phone, on my mobile device, it would put me within a few meters of that spot, right? Like a lot of apps do. So, okay, I'm going to go over to the former ESRI office there. We just moved recently. Okay, and I'm going to go to here. Okay, great. And now, do I have a photograph? Okay, so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say, gee, do I have a photograph of that location? And okay, here's my photograph, and I'm going to submit my data. Okay, so now you can see that I've got, 5 questions or so in there in my survey, including the location. And my requirements on this particular one, I don't have, let's see, this one has a star on it, so that's a required question, that's a required question. All of them that are starred are required questions. My location is a required question, but my photograph is not required. My species is not required. So again, you've got some additional capabilities there. So okay, it's submitting that that data point to that survey. Okay, now I'm going to go back to our set of slides, and we're going to move on. And now what I want to do is, let's just check and see if that's still submitting. Okay, it is. I chose a fairly big photo. So it's still submitting. But now, after filling out the fields, then you can check your web map, and I'll show you how to set one of these up. But I'm going to go ahead and say, you know what? I want to look at the map as it stands right now. So here is last time I collected data with a bunch of students. It was at the University of Colorado campus in Boulder. And so here is a bunch of tree species that these students had collected using this same data set, using this same survey. So you can see here, I've got, hey, deciduous or evergreen, right? These are the fields that end up in my feature service. The survey turns into a feature service. Condition, height in meters, species, and then do I have any photos? Okay? The point is, this is pretty straightforward and pretty powerful to be able to set this up and deploy it right away. Okay, let's go here, and my data was sent successfully. This is my end screen on my survey. I have a little touch. Thank you for submitting your, and then press here to submit another survey. Sometimes I put a link. Do you want to see it on the map? So I provide that link for the people filling out the survey. I didn't in this case, but I've got press here to submit another survey. So now that I've done that, let's go back to the map here. Let's close down this photograph, and let's go to this map, and let's zoom out a bit. Remember this? This is the one I just collected a moment ago with you. In the office, I'm not in the field, but remember this photograph that I picked? Okay, so that is now a part of my data set that now I can do analysis on. More about that in a moment. So, okay, great. So we've got at least the vision of how these things can be connected. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a short guidance on how to create one of these things, how to create a survey, how to create and analyze a map from your survey data, and then creating the dashboard and creating a story map. I realize that this is a lot to pack in a short workshop like this, but hopefully everybody is, within access to some sort of water, so you can pause and take a breath. And if you're watching this later on as a recording, feel free to pause and rewind things or replay things, and we'll continue on with creating the field survey. Hopefully you're liking this. Okay, so what we need to do to create one of these things is go to survey123.arcgis.com. So if I go to survey123.arcgis.com and I sign in, and just a note about signing in. Most of you are at an organization, a university, a company, a nonprofit, a government agency that already has access to ArcGIS Online. So you already have a sign-in. If you don't, you can always go to developers.arcgis.com. If you go to developers.arcgis.com, you see this, hopefully you're seeing this incognito window. Let me know if you're seeing this incognito window. There's a sign up for free. Now that is a fully functional, a fully functional ArcGIS Online account. It's basically you're the only person in that organization. You are a one-person organization. You don't get unlimited credits in there. You can't geocode every water well in North America, for example, but you do have a lot of capabilities, and you do have all the analysis tools that anybody else would have. But that's just a nice, even if you do have a account in your university or your nonprofit or your government agency, I still think it's a good, nice sandbox to be able to have that other account. You can test some things out. Again, you can't run your own mapping company out of it and your own business, but it's really a sandbox for testing things out. And also in this developer platform, you've got some tutorials like, I want to read about and I want to find out how to use the REST API or how to use the ArcGIS API and how to do some JavaScript and create maps with code. So there's some tutorials in here to let you get at as the name implies, the development side of GIS. So there's a lot of good reasons to actually go to the developer site. But anyway, so whatever account you use, you're going to get to survey123.arcgis.com and you're going to sign in. I'm signed in here in the upper right. I know I'm signed in because I've got my name up there. Right now, I only have one survey that's in this zone. And I didn't even author that survey, but it's in my organization, so I can see some surveys that my colleagues have developed. Now, I want to create a survey, so I'm going to create a new survey. And this is where you've got this decision to make. whether you go with the Excel side, which is more power on the right, and on the left side, using the web designer. And that's what we're going to do today, just to kind of dip toes into the shallow waters of the geospatial swimming pool. So I'm going to go to the left side and say get started. Now, metadata is important, as you no doubt are aware. And so, you don't have to write your master's thesis in here, but it is a good idea to actually pay attention to these things. I'm going to give it a little bit of a short shrift, if you know what I mean, here in the workshop, but normally I do pay a little more attention to this. And so I'm going to go in here, get started, provide some metadata, walkability survey, etc. Okay. So back on our survey 123, providing some metadata here. Okay. All right, super. So I'm creating a survey, and what it's doing is this is what I like about survey 123, one of the many things. Let me just have a moment. A geo moment. It creates a feature service. And so that's pretty powerful, because that's like the building blocks that you can analyze in ArcGIS Online and ArcGIS Pro. It creates all of that, the G part of GIS, the I part of GIS, and the S part. It creates a feature service. Very cool. So these are like the Lego bricks in your bigger structure, okay, if you want to think about it that way. So, but yeah, good point. There are you do need to be in your organization, you need to have creator publisher role, because you're creating a feature service. So make sure that you talk to whoever your administrator is and say, hey, I'm going to be creating surveys, I'm going to be creating feature services, I need that creator publisher role. So yeah, very good point. So now we're in the zone where we can start dragging and dropping things into our survey. We're going to design our survey. So we're going to go here and we're going to say, multiple choice, pedestrian friendly or unfriendly. Create two choices, friendly and unfriendly, two choices only, make it a required question. Okay, great. So now, okay, multiple choice, okay, and choice 3, no, I don't want choice 3. We're gonna get rid of that in a bit. So here is this location walkable, okay, pedestrian friendly, and here is where I can go ahead and delete that one. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I don't need to have that one checked. Sometimes if you're going out in the field, let's say, and 90% of the species are ponderosa pine, you might want to have ponderosa pine checked. And then that way your users, think about the usability for the user from the user standpoint. So all kinds of decisions to make here that I'm kind of, again, not paying too much attention to, but there's good sound principles out there for designing effective surveys. So, okay, I'm liking that right now. Great. I'm going to go ahead and save now. Some tools in the Esri ArcGIS platform, increasingly, they have autosave. Some of them don't. So depends on what tool you're using. So you might want to pay attention to that. If you've done a lot of edits, for example, in Survey 123, and you haven't saved it for a while, it's the web, right? Anything could happen. So if there's no autosave, just make sure you save often. Let's go back to our outline here. And so we're done with question number 1. Number 2 is going to have a Likert scale. Rate the walkability of this site. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Rate the walkability of this site. So we're going to add on the left side of the right panel, we're going to add a Likert scale. Okay, and this one, rate the walkability, right? Okay, super. And so looking at what I want is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want 5 choices in there. And I don't want strongly disagree. I want horrible, not ideal, etc. So hope you see where I'm going with this. It's pretty straightforward. What do I want for the values? How about 1, 3, and 5? I really don't want a custom here. What do I want? I want 5, 3, 5, 7. Max value 5, yeah, because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to save that there, and good. Now let's go back to multiple choice. Tick all characteristics that describe the site. So okay, great. I'm going to add, just like we did before. It says saved, multiple choice, and yes. Okay, and go back to our, yep, okay. Just make sure we're following our own guidelines. And does this need to be required? do not allow the required question number 1 I have here. So let's go back to this one and let's make it a required question. Just down there under validation, this is a required question. Okay, super. So now it gets the little star by it. Tick all the choices that describe the site. Okay, so we're going down to number 3 again and looking at our guidelines. Tick all characteristics that describe the site. We've done that. Tick all characteristics that describe the site. Okay, and then branches or obstructions, etc. Wide path, dangerous, cross traffic. Now I've got to the end of my choices, so all I need to do here is say, you know what, I want to add another choice there. Unsafe, set apart from vehicles, whatever you want to put here, if you're following along. Okay, and I like the appearance there. There are all kinds of settings in here, folks, about the colors and the backgrounds and things like that that you would probably expect to have, and it's under appearance. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time here kind of prettying it up, but there's some nice things that you can do, some aesthetics things that you can set up in here. But we want to really focus on the data. Number 4 is going to be the geopoint. Where is this site located? Okay, and now it's not called geopoint anymore, and I'll explain why in a moment. Okay, so we've saved that. We're going to add another question, and here we're going to look at what kind of choices do we have for the location. We have over here, we're going to go with image in a little bit, but we're going to get, and look, you got all kinds of choices here. You can ask people for an email address if you want to follow up with information to them. All kinds of things in here that you can put. So very nice. So okay, so far so good. Let's go ahead and click on that map now. This was called GeoPoint before, but the reason why it's called map is because a wonderful thing happened. It was improved, and now we can no longer just collect points. We can also collect lines and polygons. So you can collect perimeters of wetlands, you can collect fence lines, all kinds of things out in the field, no longer just points. That's really good. So that's why it's called map. Now we want point data though in this case, so we're going to leave it on point. And untitled questions, I'm going to say, as I indicated, where is the site located? Okay, and let's say you're working on a certain campus or in a certain protected area or wildlife refuge or wherever you're located. But go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and go to, you know, that site where I am going to be collecting my data, because think about, again, your users. You don't want to have them looking at a world map if every single one of the people that is going to fill out your survey, which may be you and a handful of other colleagues, you don't want to have them open up this world map. You want to have it pretty focused on where you are located. So I'm going to go down to Southern California here, not too far from Redlands, and just kind of drop it on like Loma Linda. Okay, so ask for device's location when opening this question. Yeah, I think I will. It'll try to guess my location. And so I'm going to go ahead and save that right there. Okay, last question, we're almost done. And that is the image. We want to have an image if people have one. So we're going to add, and we're going to add an image. And do you have a photo of this location? If so, submit it. Okay. And I'm not going to make it required. I only want really one image. Okay, so I'm going to call that good. And you can see that within, what, 7 minutes, if I hadn't been talking so much, it would have been even less. We would have been done with our survey. Now I've got 5 questions in here. The walkability, rating it, tick all the characteristics, where is it located, and do you have a photo of this location? And now, a couple of other things to think about. You want to preview the survey. And so we're going to do that. We're going to preview it. What will it look like when I publish it for people to look at? And, you know, again, I could make this a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, but in the interest of time, I'm going to leave it there. And, okay, looks like things are functional and okay. Yeah, okay, great. Now, it's in preview mode, so I really can't submit data into it. It looks like I can, but it won't appear in the survey because it's just in preview mode and I haven't published it yet. So the second thing I wanted to point out here is this Collaborate tab. This is what I referred to earlier. What can submitters do? So let's pay attention to that a little bit. It's in draft, so I really can't I can't really show you the Collaborate tab, but I wanted to show you at least where it was. So we'll go back to the Design tab, and let's go ahead and publish this. Yes, I do want to publish. I can modify this later on, but now it's creating this feature service that you and others can do things with. Run it through statistical analysis. Okay, where is the hot spots for this particular kind of tree species? Are they statistically in a significantly clustered way in this part of the wetland versus that part of the wetland, etc. Okay, so over here under Collaborate, we're going to give some choices here. Do we want to open it in the browser? Yes. I don't want to make people have the app. Who can submit data to the survey? I'm going to say everyone can submit data to the survey. And this is really important here, kind of touching on what you were talking about earlier, and that is, do you want to be able to have people make changes? No, I only want to add new records. I don't want them to change anything else. I certainly don't want them to change other people's data. Now, there may be instances where you want to do that. You've got a close working group of collaborators, but here I'm going to share this with the general public. I really don't want someone to be able to go in there and delete my points or your points. Okay, so let's see, the current survey is currently open. That's great. I'm going to save these changes. And so, yeah, so here's where if you're able to create groups inside a developer account, you'd be able to see your groups right in here. That'd be the place to check. Okay, cool. So now we're going to say, okay, we want to go to the ArcGIS. That's kind of our bit.ly brand, if you will. ArcGIS is it's a short URL. So I'm going to go back to my survey, and I'm going to say, gosh, there it is, right up here. I've got ArcGIS and that little six-figure or six-character string on it. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go ahead and test it over here in an incognito window because I'm not logged into there, and I'm going to see if it works. Ah, there it is. Beautiful. So that'd be definitely what I would recommend doing is, making sure that you can open it, not signed into anything, because oftentimes, and this goes with story maps and other things too, you think that everybody can see it because you're actually signed in and you don't realize you're signed in, and then you share it with someone and it's asking them to log in. So yeah, that's looking pretty good to me. So great. So we'll come back to our test it, add 1 point to the survey. Let's go ahead and do that. And so I've got, again, my short URL there. This is the one to share with people, is that short URL rather than the big, long, gnarly thing. So I'm going to say pedestrian friendly. It's good. How about wonderfully walkable? There's a wide path, and so okay, to over here, okay, just south of Loma Linda. Now I'm going to select my image file, and I've got, let's see, I've got some, yeah, I've got an image here. Let's go to an image right here. Okay, I'm going to submit that, and notice that box that bopped up because we cannot find your location. No worries, no worries. I'm going to leave it right there, uploading that photo, and shortly we'll be able to test this out. Great. Okay, so you can use your own photos or the ones the author provided. That's me. And I've got a tutorial that walks you through all this that I'm going to share at the end here. If you use the latter, I give you the coordinates for the photo. It's in Evergreen, Colorado. And I give you the that it's good for pedestrians, etc. Then I've got another photo in there with another location that you can use if you don't have your own photo. Chances are you probably have your own photos, but if you want to use mine, you're welcome to. Then we're going to create a map in our next step as soon as we test out our survey. Let's go ahead and say, okay, your data was sent successfully. There it is. Let's go to our survey. And so we're going to go to Analyze. And okay, we've got a couple of things that it's already created, a couple of graphs here. Is it walkable? Right now I've got one that's walkable. Rate the walkability, wonderfully walkable. I've got 1 point in my survey. It's got a wide path, and you can see there. Okay, so and here's my photo of that location. There it is. Okay, very good. Okay, I'm happy with that. And so, great, super. Now we're going to the next step, and that is, yeah, when citizens use the app, if you have your location-based services on your whatever device you're using, it'll, you know, within 2 or 3 meters of your actual location, it'll use that. You can also offset it though. If it's, you know, that shrub that's on the other side of the freeway that you're actually trying to collect and you're not actually physically right there, you can say offset it to that location over there. So you can do that as well.